Hi everyone, I'm Hazel West, the author of the Modern Tales in Nafina series. This is the blog tour for my new book, The Scars of War, and this is a author interview. So sit back, relax, grab some coffee or your hot beverage of choice, and enjoy. So this is the first author interview I'll be doing for the Scars of War tour, and this one is hosted by Abigail Lesky, who is a good friend of mine, and these are the questions that she sent me to answer for you guys. So the first question is, was the writing process for this story the same or different than the writing process for the other books of the Modern Tales of Nafina series? Now, this one, yes, it was quite a bit different from the previous two books, Blood Ties and An Earthly King. I think what I find most fun about writing this series is that it is quite a bit different with each book. Because each one is kind of a story all on its own. The first one was mostly kind of an adventure story. The second one was kind of more of a romance slash mystery slash retelling of Tam Lin. But Scars of War is actually kind of almost a sort of procedural mystery sort of book. It dealt more with kind of like investigation and all that kind of stuff, so I thought it was actually a lot of fun to write compared to the others, and I hope everyone enjoys it. Plus, it's also a road trip story, which I am very fond of. The next question is, approximately how much coffee do you drink while writing this? Well, I have to admit that day one of NaNoWriMo, which is when I started writing this book, in 2015, I think. This was my 2015 Nano story. I ended up eating quite a bit of Halloween candy and drinking probably about 3 cups of coffee that night, and it was very, very bad. But after that, usually I consume about 1 cup of coffee per writing session. So, per night, yes. That, depending on how long it took me to write this, which I can't really remember, being through the month of November, and then when I finished it just a few months ago, probably about 40 cups of coffee. The next question is, can you tell us more about changelings? Now, changelings are what the main kind of lore that I used in this story. In Irish folklore, the changeling children are ones that they are fairy children that the fairies swap out and glamour to look like human children, and usually they're going to use like fairy children who are kind of sickly or runts. Sometimes they won't even use an actual child, but they'll use a glamored tree stump or something like that. And so this was what they considered a real problem back in Ireland. Typically, how they would explain away like colicky babies who cried all the time, and because the Irish are very superstitious. So, but the changeling lore that I chose to use in my book is kind of a conglomeration of various different stories that I've read, and I thought it was really fun to get to use it as kind of a subplot to the story. And I won't tell too much about it because it might have spoilers, but I think I was able to put in quite a bit of changeling lore and other fairy lore, obviously, to kind of use it as sort of a fun and different way to tell the story that I need to tell. The next question is, what is the main theme of the story? So I think typically with most of these stories that I write, they have 2 general themes. I mean, obviously you have like the main storyline, which is kind of the adventure of the story. But I think in Scars of War, the main theme in reality is the one that you kind of see as the character's journey. In this one, I have as the main characters Cass, who is the director of BPAF, and Aiden Mickle, who is Kieran's older brother, who you have seen in the other 2 books and kind of his character journey. And I think in reality, the theme of this book, as the title reflects, is kind of dealing with scars, and whether those are mental or physical, and usually it's kind of a combination of both. Kind of learning how to overcome that, and to just, like, kind of learn how to deal with them. Not necessarily to, you know, I think it's important, and this is kind of one of the only messages I really cared to put in my book. I think it's important to realize that even, like, when you go through stuff, it's always going to stick with you. And it's your choice whether you want to just keep fighting and work your way through it, or if you just want to give up. And I think the important message that I was trying to get through in this story, and the real theme of the story, is that it's okay to hold on to your scars, because at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones, that's going to be the thing that keeps you fighting, and it's going to be the thing that makes you stronger, as long as you don't, like, just let it defeat you. So yeah, I would say that's probably the main theme of the story. So, the next question is, what is your favorite thing about this book? I would have to admit that my favorite thing about this book was getting to write a road trip with the director of BPAF, the commander of Nafina, and the king of the Unseelie, Oberon. That was incredibly fun, and I enjoyed it probably more than I should have. The next question is, if the Nafina series was going to be filmed, would you rather them be movies or a television show? Who would you want to make the soundtrack? So, I definitely would rather it be a television show. I am a huge fan of television shows, miniseries, as opposed to movies, because movies for me don't really have, like, enough content, and I think while it could be a really cool movie, I would also really like to see it more as, like, each book be, like, a 5 or 6 episode miniseries. As for soundtracks, I'm not really on the up and up about a lot of soundtrack artists anymore, but I did really like I really liked the sound of the music that they did in The Eagle, which was the adaptation of Rosemary Sutcliffe's book, Eagle of the Ninth. I really like that because it kind of gave it a Celtic-y sound. Of course, I have songs that I would like in there. As far as, like, other artists, I like Runrig, and Flogging Molly, I think, was kind of the ones that really brought out what the feel of the book for me, at least the first one. So, I think with a mixture of good soundtracks and good music cues, like, that would be really cool. So the next question is, how many points of view are there in this book? So the Modern Tales of Nafina is kind of an interesting series because each book is kind of a different character's story. The first one was obviously Kieran's story, so that one was all told from his point of view. The second one followed 3 characters. It continued with Kieran's point of view, and it also gave us a point of view for Aemon, the High King, and Bree, who was the love interest / one of the main female characters in that book. In Scars of War, I split the narration between Cass, so you can get that side of the story, like with their investigation and everything, and Aemon, so you can see what's going on back in Tara. And I did enjoy writing Cass's point of view. It was a bit different than others that I had done. It was also really hard a lot of times because she's a character who's rather very similar to my own character, so it's kind of hard sometimes to actually distance yourself enough to write a character who's like you, which it sounds weird, but it's very true. And Aemon I always enjoy writing his point of view because he's another character who is a bit like me, but he's different enough so that he's actually really easy to write, and I quite enjoy his kind of subtle, sarcastic humor a lot of times. Okay, what is the record speed at which one of Nafina has driven? So, this is not a question that we're going to answer, but I've heard it been told that it may be somewhere between 120 between and maybe 180, depending on the car that they have and how fast it's actually able to go. I think you can pretty much figure that they're redlining it most of the time. And the final question is, what is your favorite piece of dialogue? I think I'm gonna have to pull the most random line from this book, and that is it Plan M for Manly or Musk? So, there you go. That's my favorite line of dialogue, because sometimes I don't even know what I write. And that was the interview I did with Abigail, and I hope you guys will all check out the rest of the blog tour, and do not forget to enter the giveaway, because I have a, this, ta-da! It is a Glamour Dispersing Shamrock Pendant, B-Path standard issue, and I also will be giving away one signed copy of Scars of War to anyone who enters and wins. So I hope you all will check out the rest of the blog tour, and you enjoy all the other posts that everyone has been so kind to do for me. And I will see you later. Bye.